Have you ever wondered what it would be like if a small-town prophet walked into the halls of power today and called out corruption, greed, and injustice with no filter whatsoever? Well, that's exactly what happened over 27 centuries ago when a farmer named Micah stepped onto the stage of history and delivered one of the most powerful messages ever recorded. This wasn't just another religious sermon. This was a complete dismantling of an entire corrupt system, and the echoes of his words still shake our world today. Picture this. You're living in ancient Israel around 750 BC. The rich are getting richer, the poor are being crushed under impossible burdens, and the religious leaders have turned faith into a profitable business. Sound familiar? Into this chaos steps Micah, a man from the countryside who dared to speak truth to power when everyone else stayed silent. But here's what makes his story absolutely incredible. Everything he predicted came true with stunning accuracy. The Book of Micah isn't just ancient history gathering dust on a shelf. It's a 7-chapter masterpiece that reads like a modern-day exposé of political corruption, social injustice, and religious hypocrisy. But more than that, it's a roadmap for hope when everything seems hopeless. By the time we're done exploring this remarkable book together, you'll understand why scholars call Micah one of the most relevant biblical books for our modern world. Let me start by introducing you to the man himself. Micah came from Moresheth, a small agricultural town about 25 miles southwest of Jerusalem. He wasn't from the big city. He wasn't part of the religious establishment, and he definitely wasn't interested in making friends with the powerful elite. He was what we might call a country prophet with a city-sized message. The timing of Micah's ministry was crucial. This was during the reigns of Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah in Judah, roughly between 750 and 686 BC. The northern kingdom of Israel was about to fall to the Assyrians, and Judah was following the same path of moral decay and spiritual rebellion. It was a time when the wealthy were literally stealing homes from families, when judges could be bought for the right price, and when religious leaders were more interested in profit than prophecy. Now let's dive into the structure of this incredible book. Micah is organized around 3 major speeches, each beginning with the Hebrew word hear. It's like watching a 3-act drama unfold, with each act building to a more powerful climax. The first major section, chapters 1 through 3, is what I call the divine lawsuit. Micah opens with a courtroom scene where God himself is both the prosecutor and the judge. He begins by saying, "Hear, all you peoples. Listen, earth and everything in it, that the sovereign Lord may bear witness against you." This isn't just a gentle correction. This is a full-scale indictment of an entire society. Micah describes how God will come down from his holy temple to witness against the people. The imagery is absolutely stunning. He says the mountains will melt beneath God like wax before fire, and the valleys will split apart like water rushing down a slope. This isn't poetic exaggeration. This is the prophet trying to help people understand the magnitude of what's happening. The reason for this divine judgment becomes crystal clear as Micah lists the charges. The wealthy are lying awake at night plotting how to steal fields and houses from their neighbors. They're using their power to crush the poor and helpless. The judges are corrupt, taking bribes to pervert justice. The religious leaders are preaching feel-good messages for money while ignoring the cries of the oppressed. In chapter 3, Micah delivers some of the harshest words ever spoken to corrupt leaders. He tells them they hate good and love evil, that they tear the skin from people and the flesh from their bones like cannibals. He says they're like butchers chopping up human beings for meat. These aren't polite religious platitudes. These are devastating accusations that cut straight to the heart of systematic oppression. But here's where it gets really intense. Micah predicts that because of this corruption, Jerusalem itself will become a heap of rubble, and the Temple Mount will be overgrown with forest. This prophecy was so shocking that over a century later, when the prophet Jeremiah repeated it, the religious leaders wanted to kill him for blasphemy. Yet this exact prophecy came true when the Babylonians destroyed Jerusalem in 586 BC. The second major section, chapters 4 and 5, shifts dramatically from judgment to hope. This is where Micah reveals what I call the Great Reversal. After describing the complete destruction of Jerusalem, he pivots to one of the most beautiful prophetic visions in the entire Bible. He declares that in the last days the mountain of the Lord's temple will be established as the highest of mountains, and all nations will stream to it. People will say, "Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the temple of the God of Jacob. He will teach us his ways, so that we may walk in his paths." This is a vision of universal peace where weapons of war will be turned into farming tools, and no one will learn war anymore. But then Micah drops what might be the most famous verse in his entire book. In chapter 5 verse 2, he makes an incredibly specific prophecy about the coming Messiah. "But you, Bethlehem Ephrathah, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come for me one who will be ruler over Israel, whose origins are from of old, from ancient times." This prophecy is absolutely remarkable for several reasons. First, it identifies the exact birthplace of the Messiah. Not Jerusalem, the capital city, but tiny Bethlehem. Second, it reveals that this ruler will have ancient origins, suggesting divinity. Third, it was written over 700 years before Jesus was born in Bethlehem, exactly as predicted. The third major section, chapters 6 and 7, presents what scholars call the covenant lawsuit. Here Micah uses the metaphor of a legal proceeding where God calls the mountains and hills as witnesses to his case against Israel. It's one of the most emotionally powerful passages in the entire Bible. God essentially asks, "What have I done wrong? How have I burdened you?" He reminds them of how he delivered them from slavery in Egypt, how he protected them from their enemies, and how he blessed them with abundance. It's like a heartbroken parent asking their rebellious child, "Where did I go wrong?" Then comes one of the most quoted verses in all of Scripture. In chapter 6 verse 8, Micah asks, "And what does the Lord require of you?" His answer is beautifully simple yet profoundly challenging: to act justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. This verse encapsulates the entire message of Micah in just a few words. Justice, mercy, and humility. These aren't complicated theological concepts that require advanced degrees to understand. They're basic human values that should characterize anyone who claims to follow God. The book concludes with a prayer of hope that's both personal and national. Micah acknowledges the reality of sin and failure, but he also expresses unwavering confidence in God's forgiveness and restoration. He declares that God will again have compassion, will tread underfoot our wickedness, and will hurl all our iniquities into the depths of the sea. What makes Micah so relevant today is how perfectly his message applies to our current world. We live in an era of increasing inequality, political corruption, and religious hypocrisy. We see the powerful exploiting the vulnerable, justice being perverted for personal gain, and leaders who claim to represent God while ignoring the needs of the oppressed. But Micah offers hope. He reminds us that God sees everything, that justice will ultimately prevail, and that there's a better way to live. His call to act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with God isn't just ancient wisdom, it's a practical blueprint for building a better society. The Book of Micah proves that some messages are truly timeless, and some voices echo across the centuries with undimmed power and relevance.